The broadcast is live. Phil Tarrant, Tom Panos, Real Estate Exposed, going behind what's happening in real estate. Tom, we have a special guest today. We'll introduce him soon, but how are you going on, mate?
Good to see you, lads. Good to see you, Phil. Good to see you, Alex. How are we going? We're going very, very well. The amount of property that, it really upset me. I was thinking about it, is I've got every possible vendor in Sydney, Melbourne, and many parts of Australia racing to get their property on the market and sold in the last few weeks of this year. And there's this oversupply of listings that have hit the market in many metropolitan parts. And then in September and August and in October, I was screaming out on the top of my lungs on social media and pieces I'd written for News Corp. Put your home on the market if you're thinking of selling. There's nothing on the market right now. You're going to get a top dollar, right? You're going to get top dollar. Put it on the market right now. What happens is people were thinking, no, let's wait for the lockdown to end. Let's wait till we can start having physical inspections with open homes. No more of these Zoom auctions. What happens next, guys, is this Saturday, there are 1,800 auctions scheduled in Sydney. I mean, there was a time when 300 or 400 auctions on a Saturday was seen as, hey, look, lots of auctions being put to the market on a particular weekend. There's 1,800 properties. Guys, there are properties that are being cancelling. There are properties that are being sold prior. There are properties being withdrawn. There's simply an oversupply in the metro areas. And I just think to myself, it's interesting how the behaviour of sellers, even though logic says sell now, they hold off, and then they're all racing to, get the profits out now. And we've already started seeing a bit of softening in some markets. I spoke to Thomas McGlynn, who works as a sales head and auctioneer of Greshik Whitney. I saw him yesterday in the morning, and he said to me, no question about it, they've dropped 5% at least in his marketplace. We've seen that, right? These are from his words. So, guys, I love to unpack it, but I'm really interested because I had a conversation with Alex the day before yesterday, and this is going to be a really good opportunity for our real estate agents and our mortgage brokers. They've got a similar sort of audience, similar sort of client. What does it feel like when a client gets pissed off with an experience? What are the consequences? And I also want to talk about what could have been done differently, because Alex Whitlock, who is one of the owners of Momentum Media, those that watch this, REB, because it's the real estate audience. So, Phil, you guys have been business partners for how long now?
15 plus years. Other brands for our mortgage brokers, they'd be familiar with the Advisor, Mortgage Business for our property investors, Smart Property Investment. Both myself and Alex are, I guess we're media professionals, but we're also property investors as well. So we thought we'd bring Alex in to this particular chat. Tom, Real Estate Exposed. We're supposed to talk about the stuff that no one really wants to talk about in real estate, but everyone wants to hear about. A tale of two very different stories. I've recently gone through a purchase. It's been a very good purchase. Alex has just been through a purchase, and what he ended up buying was a good purchase, but there was a bit of a gap in the middle there, which I thought would be your points. We can unpack that today.
One thing's for sure, guys, there's a lot of money being made in your business. Everyone's buying real estate over there. Good luck to you guys. Well done. Congratulations.
We do our best. But Alex Whitlock, we're property investors individually. We also share a portfolio where we share our journey investing in property, smart property investments. So any chance we get to give a real world take on what actually happens buying real estate, what we do well, what we do less than well. I'm quite reflective on how do you do it better in the future. But Alex, you haven't had a particularly great experience last weekend.
I think it's worth just thinking, and again, from a non-real estate perspective, what I want to do is, and thanks Tom, Phil, for having me on the show. What I want to try and do is for people tuning in is just to give you the insight from a buyer's perspective. And one of the problems working in any industry is the real estate agents know how real estate works. They know it inside out. They understand the nuances of offers, of acceptance, of keeping all parties interested. What I want to really bring home to people tuning in is it's sometimes worth remembering that punters like me don't understand the inside workings of real estate. and you've got a couple of different scenarios, right? You know, when you're transacting real estate, you end up with a buyer, and you end up then with a number of people who haven't succeeded in buying. But there's a little bit of a funny inflection point. This is what I'm going to talk through today, is when you think you've bought and then it turns out that you haven't bought. And what that does is it creates an emotional, a chemical, a physical reaction, because you hold something back as a buyer, you know. And I've missed out, you know, Tom, Phil, everyone else tuning in. I've bought probably 50 properties over the years. I've probably missed out on 200 properties. But the thing is, like, you know that when you've not succeeded in buying, that it's always been an opportunity. It's never been a reality. But the experience of the weekend, for about half an hour, I'd bought a property, and only to find out that my understanding of having bought a property was actually an illusion. So I'll give you a very quick scenario. I'd seen a couple of properties. I drove up the coast. I'm not going to go into the specific area. I'm not going to talk about who the agents are, because it's not really important to this scenario. One went to auction on a Saturday. The other one was up for negotiation. So I drove up on the Friday. I talked to both respective agents. The one that was for negotiation, I said to the agent, I like it, but I kept because as a buyer, I'm trying to keep the price point down. He's trying to keep the price point up. So we're talking about a figure of 2.5 million. That's what the agent's saying that the vendor is expecting. I'm sort of all the time as a buyer saying, yeah, it's not going to be that. It's not going to be that. It's not going to be that. You know, but I'm serious. I've got money. I'm going to buy. I'm going to buy today. If we can come to an agreement, I'm going to buy today. I'm ready to go. If I don't buy today, there's another property, very, very similar proposition. And I'm going to buy that at auction tomorrow because I'm going to buy. Okay. So this is the scenario. So I drive up and having some negotiations on the way up, and all the time, you know, and the agent's, you know, doing his thing. He's saying, I've had offers around here. They've been knocked back. 2.5 million is what the vendor wants. I've gone and viewed the property. It's stunning. I'm not going to go into too many details. It might sort of pinpoint where it is. It's a stunning property. It's a pretty unique place. I've talked to the agent. The agent didn't meet me there. His assistant came along and met me, and I've said, it's you know, it's fantastic. I want to buy it. Okay. So I call the agent all the time, you know, whilst I'm trying to minimize the price that I pay as a buyer, I'm reinforcing that I'm serious, that I'm ready to go. So I say, I like the place. I've had an offer. I put in an offer of a preliminary offer with an unseen of 2.325 million. And they'd said, it's not going to be enough. I said, look, take it to the vendor. It's higher than you've been offered so far. That gives us a realistic starting point. Anyway, seen the property. I love it. I give the agent a call and I said, I'm serious about this place. Go talk to the vendor. There's a deal to be done this afternoon. Otherwise, I will be buying at auction tomorrow. I like this place. I'm serious. Come back to me and tell me what the vendor will sell for. Now, from my perspective, I'm giving, you know, carte blanche for the agent, for the vendor to name their price. Okay, this is my experience as a buyer. This is my paradigm as a buyer. So the agent calls me back and said, Alex, and oh, by the way, and I'll give you another caveat. I said, tell them to name their price. And I said, by the way, it's not going to be 2.5. I'm just going to let you know, be realistic all the time, trying to be conservative as a buyer. The agent phones me back and said, Alex, the sell today price is 2.5 million. I said, I'll buy it. Tell the vendor, I'll buy it. Okay. End of conversation. And then I phone my wife because I believe, and this is, some of you guys tuning in and go, you're an idiot. Some of you tuning in are going to go, you know what? I can understand what you're saying. It doesn't really matter for the purpose of this story. It's really about understanding the psyche of a buyer. I thought I'd bought it. I thought I'd been told a price that they wanted to sell. The buy today price is what I was told. I said, I'll buy it. So I phoned my wife.
Didn't you say also send me your trust account details?
I sent him a text and said, send me the trust account details. I'll put money. I'll put 0.25% in now. And I did all the emotional stuff as well. Tom went, oh, I'm so pleased. This is fantastic. I can't believe it. Oh, my wife's going to be so thrilled. I did all that stuff. Phoned my wife. I went, darling, we got it. We got it. I'm so pleased. We've got it. Okay. I then go, I'd actually got an appointment. I said to the agent, I said, look, I've actually got an appointment with another agent. As a matter of courtesy, I don't want to leave the guy stood there. I know he's traveled to this other property. I'm going to see him. I'm going to call you when I've come out. We're going to get this thing sewn up. I'll come down to your office. I'll sign the contract. I'll pay a deposit today. This is a deal. This is a deal done. It's been great working with you. The agent, I phoned the agent when I came out of the other property half an hour later, and he said, I said, okay, let's meet up. Let's get it done. He said, yeah, you know, things have changed since we spoke. And I just got that feeling, and I went, I know this is not good. And he said, yeah, look, a higher offer's come in. I said, what do you mean? He said, yeah, you know, look, a higher offer's come in. I needed to go back to the other interested parties, and somebody's offered more money. I said, we had a deal. We'd agreed a price. I said I'd buy. You know, this is, what do you mean a higher offer? How much more? Well, I can't really tell you that, you know, but it's a bit more. Anyway, you know what? Look, there's no need for me to go through every single step of this process. Tom, now I'm in a tailspin psychologically. Something I had in my hand is now falling through my fingers. I was also angry and I was upset, and maybe not thinking as rationally as I had done throughout the negotiation process, because psychologically, chemically, I'd now changed from being a prospective buyer to an owner for half an hour. So I said, look, I'm not going to muck around. I don't want to go through, we're going to carry, you know, I don't want to carry on like this. I thought we had a deal. Now we haven't got a deal. So you go to the vendor and you come back, and now you tell me what the real price is, what it's going to sell. And I'll give you a yes or no. And he said, okay. And I sat in the car and I felt sick and I felt unhappy and just generally bad. And the feeling I'd had like an hour previously about being elated and being, this is a place incidentally for retirement. This wasn't just an investment property. This is a place for me and my wife to retire to in the future. I got a text message back from the agent, and he said, and the text message said, it said, Alex, I've had, the vendor has accepted an offer from another buyer. So, look, where am I going to go with this? I was shattered as a prospective buyer, but stepping away from that, and you know, you guys tuning in, make your mind up whether I'm right or wrong, or you know, if I'm being foolish or if I've been hard done by. It kind of doesn't really matter. For me, stepping away and having a huge interest in real estate, running a real estate brand, being a real estate investor, being a property buyer. Once I cool down and calm down, I go, okay, you know, I feel very hard done by. My relationship with that office and with that agent is going to be very bad until the day I die. You know, look, maybe things will change. Maybe it can be resolved. But right now, as I walk away, very bad experience. The second thing is I look at this and I go, well, the vendor didn't get to hear my final offer, because frankly, Tom, even though I was very unhappy and felt sick, I'd committed to buying, and I've got reasonable funds at my disposal. So whatever the vendor had accepted was not the best offer, because the best offer would have been my offer because I was going to buy it. So, you know, I come away and I go, and then the third thing is, you know, it could have been done differently. And the pivotal point is around, it comes back, Tom, to this point of saying the sell today price is 2.5 million. And I said, I'm going to buy. I'm so excited. Now, in communication is everything. I work in the business of communication. I work in the media. You know, and I'm also a salesman. I've been a salesman for 25 years. I'm still a salesman now. There's an opportunity to have me, you know, look, we're not talking about small money in this particular area. This was a very, very big price in this particular area. Done differently, I could have been kept just a disappointed person. The agent could have said, Alex, you know what? You've missed out this time. Hey, I'm one of the biggest agents in this area. I can bring other properties to you. You'll be the first on the list next time. So I feel there's a huge missed opportunity from an agency perspective. I feel very unhappy. I mean, to say without using expletives, you know, as a buyer. So I'm keen. Tom, what do you think? What's the go?
Okay, so let's do a quick autopsy on this. So the first thing, I want to let you know is that, well, firstly, I want everyone to know, and if anyone's got an appetite that's in real estate, in the comments, please put down what is a better way to handle a scenario where you've got an offer and you've got a vendor that will accept the offer. What do you do in that situation? We've got a LinkedIn user saying it's lacked transparency, in my opinion, right? I love to hear what other people have got to say, but I'd also like to hear, Alex, how does an agent handle a situation where, if you look at the relationship between an agent and the vendor, is they work for the vendor. They work for the vendor. They're getting paid off the vendor. So we take that as an assumption. And they're there to get the vendor the best price. How do they do it where they do the process and they don't have an Alex Whitlock pissed off? By the way, it's the wrong person to get pissed off. You're too connected to the real estate industry. I mean, you don't want to upset any customer, right? But there are some certain customers that have got an audience, a platform, a voice that can be heard by more people, right? You've actually shown the dignity of not using this forum to actually name offices or suburbs or individuals, but we're using this as an opportunity to hopefully help real estate agents improve in their process. And one of the ways they improve is to understand the pain and suffering that is involved when someone who believes that they've got a home that wasn't going to be an investment property, but a home that they were going to at some point be living in. You own this asset. Even if it was for 30 minutes, you have had your home taken off you. And it helps me understand. Listen, I leave auctions every Saturday, and as I'm going to my car, I see people, particularly the females, crying that have been an underbidder because for one moment they were the winning bidder, and then someone came over the top and took the home off them, and they're emotionally devastated because they're walking back in their car and realised this is not going to be the home that I'm going to be living in. So I'd love to get people to throw in their comments, but here's my view, Alex, as a real estate trainer professional. This is purely an issue of communication, poor communication by the agent based on what you've said. When you were given the offer, that real estate agent should have said one of two things to you, which appears to have not have said. The first one should have been, hey, great news, we have a deal. I'm taking the home off the market. In the meantime, I want to get you to get a deposit over to me and a contract signed as soon as we can, and that way it's exchange contracts. In the meantime, I'm going to be holding the property off the market and we're telling everyone else it's sold. That could have been one course of action, and then you could have gone off and done it. By the way, each state does have different rules, but generally speaking, at a high level, essentially that communication, we're taking off the market, right? The second thing that they could have actually said is this. Hey, Alex, thank you. I want to let you know that the property is yours, but I am letting you know we're going to keep it on the market till you have transferred a deposit and signed a contract. Up until then, it's going to stay on the market, because if you were to change your mind, we'll end up with no one, right? At the moment. So that's maybe one other option. None of this was explained. It's really, as one LinkedIn user says, is explain the process. Someone had to explain this is what happens. Or the third thing, Alex, he should have maybe have said is, Alex, I want to let you know I have a moral obligation to get as much as I can. And our vendor has instructed us to speak to all parties that have been interested in this property, right? And that I'm going to actually now go off and talk to them. If he'd explain that to you. Now, if Alex and Phil, my advice to agents, anyone that's watching this, if you're in this situation and your vendor wants you to actually go off and try and get more money, your approach to Alex should be, Alex, I want to let you know, $2.5 million, it's going to get accepted, but I also have to let you know that I'm going to ring up every person that has seen the property, and I'm going to let them know we're about to sell it. All right? I'm going to let them know we're about to sell it. And I'm also going to let them know that I'm not going to disclose to them. I'm not going to disclose to them what you've offered, right? We're just going to say, give us your best. We're going to be selling it beforehand. This is something that we're always facing in pre-auction situations, pre-auction offers, right? The common denominator in all three is an explanation to the customer that this is going to happen next, an explaining of the process. You have rung up your wife thinking that you've just bought your retirement home. And half an hour later, you've been told you haven't got it, right? There's a comment here that's come from Helena. I'm going to read it. Let's bring it up here. Let's see. Should have given Alex a chance to up the offer. Say a silent auction after all, the agent might work for the vendor, but the agent stands to make one more commission. So essentially they work for themselves too. Money talks, bullshit walks, says Helen. We got another person here, explain the process. Another person here says, just sold my house and not fun. Another person here, would love to be an auctioneer. How do I do it if I've been in the market? Sam, we can talk about that another day. Yeah.
Tom, let me jump in. Everything you say, you know what, and it's really good to unpack this. You got to. It's the psychological from the buyer, from the potential buyer. It's that psychological release to think that you've bought. You know what? I don't for a second think the agent thought he'd done anything wrong. You know what I mean? Because in his mind, but this is why language and communication is critical. When somebody says they will sell today for 2.5 million, and I say, I'll buy it. When I've asked them to name their price and they come back with a price and I say, I'll buy it, then to me, I bought it. He's obviously gone, okay, I'm now going to go and call everybody else. He's doing the right thing, right, for the vendor. He's doing the right for the. I know that. Look, I've worked in and around the industry for so many years. I know how it works. Of course, people are going to be disappointed, Tom. You know, you see it at auctions every day. I bought at auction the next day, and other people were disappointed. I understand. This is why language and transparency is critical. And if had the agent said, Alex, the sell today price is 2.5 million. Alex, I know you're keen to buy the property. I've got X number of buyers or a number of buyers who are interested like you. My duty of care is to make sure the vendor gets the best price for the property. It will be sold today. And then this is the process. I can tell you now as a buyer, I'd go, I want it myself. I don't want to have a load of other buyers. But then this is the key thing, Tom. Emotionally, psychologically, I'm still on the other side of that painted white line where I'm hoping I'm a buyer. You know what? I'd have gone all the way to get that property. I'm not going to tell the agent this. Why would I tell him that? All the time for me as the buyer, I'm trying to compress the price, you know, but I've got plenty of money and I've got plenty of borrowing capacity. So my job as the buyer, if I'm a good buyer, is to keep that pressure down. His job as a good seller is to push that price up. But this is where transparency comes in. And you know what? The thing is, Tom, you can have your cake and eat it too as a good agent. If you manage people's emotions, people's expectations, if you have integrity around the way you deal, and I'm not saying this guy necessarily hasn't got integrity, but the perception from me is that he has no integrity because of that communication gap, you know, and it's a missed opportunity. He could have me as an advocate easily right now. And I'll give you a scenario. I know Phil's going to want to jump in. There was a young agent. I was going through the same process, buying my own home in Turramurra. There was a young guy called Ray who works with a very, very good agent called Matt Bolin for Ray White. Some years ago, 2017, we got the point in. It was going to go to auction. He phoned me up and went, Alex, the property's going to sell today. I was driving. No, sorry, he didn't say. He goes, Alex, the property's not going to go to auction. I said, that's really exciting, Ray. I'm really keen. You know we want to buy it. I'll have a chat with my wife tonight when I get home, and we'll give you a call tomorrow. He goes, no, Alex, it's going to sell today. I went, but I need to talk to my wife, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he was transparent. In the end, we sort of went up, and he was saying, yeah, it's not going to be quite enough. He phoned me up after lunchtime. He said, Alex, it's going to sell today. The way we're going to do it, to be fair to everybody, is we're going to take a closed envelope offer, put your best offer in, and and I'm going, Ray, what's it going to? He goes, Alex, I don't know, mate. If you want the property, put your best offer in. You know what? I ended up, Tom. I went, I just can't do this. I need to talk to my wife. I can't go and put a figure in. I phoned him up and I said, Ray, I can't do it. I'm out. He said, Alex, look, don't worry. I'll let you know how it goes. He phoned me the next day, the following morning. He said, Alex, you're not going to believe it. It's gone for about $150,000 more than you were talking about. I'm staggered myself. You know what? Is it worth that? I don't know. It's worth that to the person who bought it. You know what I did, Tom? Later I phoned him back again that lunchtime, and I got him a profile in REB because I was so impressed as a disappointed buyer with his communication, with his transparency. Of course I was disappointed. Me and my wife had seen the property. We wanted it, It was another hot market. 2017, it was the peak of the market. Things were going quickly. It's so important. There's an opportunity for agents to just not have that blinkered view. And I know that the vast bulk of agents do the right thing, believe in doing the right thing, try to do the right thing. But there is an opportunity aside that to see the peripheral vision, to have advocates.
And Tom, this sort of lends itself, and I listen, it's a really good discussion, and no doubt a lot of people are enjoying the thread. We spoke at length last week around those, I think it was Integrity Index of real estate agents, and they scored just as bad as politicians, and I might add also journalists. But a lot of to Alex's point, I think most agents operate with a high degree of integrity. I think what happens is that communication lets them down. Having sort of been a fly on the wall to Alex's experience, I've got a lot more information there. It sounds to me that this agent was never going to sell the property to Alex. It sounds as though there was a fair bit of negotiation with other interested parties prior to Alex coming up, and Alex was pretty much a vehicle for him to sell the property to the person he wanted to sell it to, probably at the price that he wanted to get. So Alex, in many ways, was just a tool for the agent to motivate that sale. Now, there might be a lot of reasons why that agent wanted to motivate that sale with another buyer, and this gets to some of the depth and complexity of real estate transactions. I think we've spoken about it before, this notion of a double header. There might have been a sale. It might have been a listing on that side to the person who was buying. Who knows? But again, transparency could have been a lot clearer, I think.
But that doesn't matter, right? I don't have the right to buy a property, even if I offer the highest price, right? It's not necessarily about the highest price. It's about the offer that the vendor wants to accept, right? And I get that, The thing is the opportunity, and I'll take a step back. It's not just about transparency, because if you don't understand the reason for transparency, then why are you going to do it? It's taking that step back, and it's understanding that buyers, they're also tunnel vision. They're focused on buying what they want to buy. They're emotional. It's about having that. It's about understanding not to allow somebody to think you've got this duty of care and the opportunities that you'll grow your business as a result of it, to understand that buyers are emotional, and we see it every day at auctions. We see it through the transactions, and you need to protect, for your own business's benefit, that emotional step over the other side of the line. As soon as I believed that I'd bought that place, everything changed. You know what? At any point, it doesn't matter to me. If I'd have lost out, if he'd have said, hey, look, unlucky, somebody else has come straight and taken off the market, I'd have gone, hey, I didn't get a chance. You know what? It wouldn't have really, in the great scheme of things, emotionally have mattered to me. And this isn't, Tom, about necessarily me succeeding in buying a property or not. What I'm talking about, the essence of this, is about the detrimental damage to agents and their brand by having huge detractors through an experience. And you've got to understand that people who get hurt to this degree will talk until the day they die about the experience they had with a person, about the experience they had with an office. And this is a real, it's a bad thing for agencies. They operate in a finite area with a finite community. you can end up with people who are huge detractors.
Well, you just saw Lisa Novak there left a message saying, would you use that agent to sell? And this
Never.
all wraps up into...
Never.
But I guess, Tom, also, I'd like to see the other side of this equation. There's a lot of people who it sounds as though this story resonates with them, and they're sort of saying, hey, maybe Alex got a bit of a bum steer there. But there's another side to this debate as well. And I'd really like from this audience to know how they think this should have been played differently, whether or not Alex could have communicated more precisely or clearly from his end, sort of expectations around buyers when it comes to the negotiation process, because it's a very, very fluid thing, isn't it, Tom?
We're not going to name him and shame him. But Phil, whilst we're waiting for people to throw in their 20 cents worth on how they play that ball, I can tell you that today, I only just remembered, so at the moment, guys, the auction market, because there's a saturation, there's a lot of properties that are ending up having one strong buyer and one or two that are not so strong. So it is common practice for us, with me and my clients, for us to bring a property to a resolution prior to the auction. And I just did one this morning. This is exactly what I would have done with you, Alex, if I was the agent. It's exactly what I did this morning. So here's the situation. There's a buyer that's interested in coming on a property. Going to change the numbers so I don't identify any property. Not that it'd be hard to pick it, but anyway. What I did is rang up with the agent, the buyer, on a two-way call. I said to the buyer, I'm letting you know, our vendor has an appetite to do the deal prior to auction. All right? They want to sell prior to auction. I want to know at what price, this is the hottest buyer, at what price? They said 1.1, we want to buy it. I said, can I ask you, if someone were to come along at a little bit higher, would we be required to come back to you? Or is 1.1 your final figure? The words they said is 1.1, not a single cent over. We'd walk away. We then rang up the other two people that had shown interest. We said, hey, letting you know, we could be selling the property prior to auction. I want to ask you, at what price level do you want to be included in negotiations, and at what price level do you want to be excluded in negotiations? The buyer said to me, can I ask you, what price have you got if you've got a price? I said, we're not going to disclose them. We're not going to get into a situation where we're going to go off and do an auction prior to the auction. You got to give us, as Lisa Novak has said, your best and fairest price, and be prepared that when this property is sold today, that you feel comfortable that you've let it go. They said to me, $1,020,000. I responded, out of curiosity, if you found out the property sold at over that, even around 1.1, would you be upset we didn't come back to you? They said, absolutely not. We've been looking around, the market's dropping, blah, blah, blah. Same conversation with the second buyer. Guess what? Everyone's happy. You've got a vendor that's happy, their property's sold. You've got the buyer at 1.1, they're happy. You've got two people that have been informed by the agent, the property is sold, and it's sold at a higher number than what you were prepared to go to, and a higher number that you said you wouldn't move up the ladder with. Everyone is happy. It's an explanation. I mean, we're talking about a pre-auction scenario, but it's a similar situation, right? A property that's being sold, and I think that's the process that should have been handled there. Because I actually think, Alex, you can do the right thing by the vendor and not piss the buyers off that miss out.
Of course. I think people want to look, people want to get, when you're a buyer, you want to be the winner. You don't care about other buyers, so I want what I want. I think that the skill set for the agent is to understand the emotional, psychological makeup of all parties. You have a vendor with their needs and objectives. There's going to be one buyer. There's not going to be two. There's going to be one winner and a lot of losers. And I think having a really good and deep understanding of the psychology of the ecosystem you're working in, you can turn this to your advantage. You can keep everybody happy. And I think if you understand that fundamentally, then the transparency, the language you use falls into place. If you don't understand that, of course you're not going to be transparent because you don't care. And this is why I think agents will unwittingly end up in situations where they've misled. Maybe some do it deliberately. I don't know whether it's a tactic. Who knows? Let's give the benefit of the doubt. Where if you don't understand the psychology at the beginning, you can unwittingly upset people. There is an opportunity. People carry grudges and people will also be absolute advocates. And I think once the emotion dies down, if I've missed out, there are always other properties. We know that, there's always another one. So look, yeah, I think it's really understanding. You've got to understand the fundamentals of everyone in the ecosystem. Then the common sense comes in.
And it's probably, Alex, we probably now know why the auction system is considered still to be the most transparent.
Absolutely.
Because the truth is, you're all there, you're seeing what's going on, you can see that they're bidding that, you're bidding that, agent goes through the process, and yes, some people are upset.
Your heart's still beating, what? And you get that, but then you're okay.
I'm listening to what Tom Quinn's got to say. I'm just reading it. What some real estate agents don't understand is if they don't work for the buyer, they lose the potential of a follow work like selling the home again when the buyer moves out or referrals. Well, I'll go as far as saying, Tom Quinn, when I started in real estate and I started working in the inner west, I was brought up in the Canterbury Bankstown area. And, when you start off as an agent in a new area, it's really hard to meet vendors, but it's really easy to meet buyers. You're meeting a lot of buyers. And I have to tell you, Alex, the number one thing I was ever taught in my whole real estate life was by a guy called John Ausnet. He said to me, Tom, get yourself an exercise book and write buyers on there. And what I want you to do is every buyer you meet, you just give them a lasting impression that they never forget you. He goes, watch what will happen in 2 years. And I did exactly that. Something strange happens. They go off. They buy a home from someone else, even though you didn't have the home. But they just thought that you gave them this incredible experience, and they ring you up and say, come and sell our house. You get buyers ringing you up out of the blue. Hey, Tom, we met you at a home. We never did business with you, but we really like you took time out. You helped us out. My brother-in-law needs to sell their house. It seems like all this emotional equity that you put in to buyers, actually they become like lead generators. Or they can become the opposite, which is a lead denigrator by the sounds of it,
So, Tom, you absolutely, just to endorse that. So I went through the buying process. It was funnily enough the same, around the same time. And there was a young agent called William Chan who had a property. I didn't buy from him, but he stayed engaged with me. And he stayed in contact. He came to visit me, and he even came around. And one day he came around to an appraisal on the place that I ended up buying, not from him. And, and he was just such a good guy and so focused that over a period of years, I was in that place for nearly 5 years. And over a period of years of building a relationship with William Chan, I said, William, when I sell my house, you'll be the agent that sells it. And you know what? He was the agent that sold it. And when I bought another house, not through his agency, from elsewhere. When I sell that house, William will sell that house for me as well.
Yeah. Well, if it's the agent I'm thinking about, out in the north in Sydney, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, up in the North Shore.
Yeah, he's a good client of mine. I think he's a real estate gym member. I've done a lot of coaching with him on face-to-face, one-on-one, and it's no surprise he's off the top of my head he'd be on track to write $2 million in GCI. He's a star performer. He's actually gone off and he's set up his own.
He's got his own office
business now with I think Craig
Marshall Chanyal, I think it is.
Yeah, the good guys. An interesting question's coming in here from a LinkedIn user. Hi, Tom. When the buyer has been asked about the price point to be excluded from future updates, if the buyer says, I don't know, but call me, And I'll tell you then, question will we leave this buyer as being difficult? So let me respond to that. This is a good point. If that buyer turns around, I would say, hey, listen, I will call you to let you know that we are going to be selling it. I'll call you right at the pointy end, but I am letting you know I'm not going to be telling you what that offer is. I'm not going to shop around another person's offer, which may have happened to you. I'm thinking to myself, Alex, that may have happened to you. They may have got your offer, gone off and sold it off to someone else, right? I would not be doing it because all that happens is you end up, look, to be honest with you, you can end up doing that. You actually end up upsetting every party, right? You upset the person that ends up buying it. They're upset because then they're paying more. And then you also upset the person that's missed out on it. So I just think that having the ability to have a crucial conversation very early on in the piece, explaining what the process is going to be like, and actually have a process. If you maybe right now you've got to work out, what do I do in this situation? What is our policy as an office? What do we do when we've got multiple parties on one property?
Tom, it's worth saying, so Phil went through a buying experience very, very different to mine. The process. Just talk through your experience, how you work with
your agent. I bought just a weekender about a month or so ago, and I went and checked it out with my wife, and
not our wife,
with my wife, and we liked it. And I said to the guy who was selling it, Stone Real Estate, good operators, okay, I want to buy this. What's today's price? And he told me what the price was. I went, okay, no worries. Then I went and had a wander around again, and I come back and I said, how are you going to play this? If I give you offer, you're going to shop it around if it's at that price point.
So then you said, what's the price to sell? He said, I'll sell for this price.
Sell for this price.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, no worries. Went and had a look around and found another reason to speak to him and said, how are you going to play this? You're going to shop it around and try and push the price up? He goes, no, that is the price. And if you give me that, it's done. And I went, okay, no worries. And then we jumped in the car and we drove home, and I called him up half an hour later and said, okay, deal done. Send me your trust account details. By the time I got home, I had his details. I put 0.25% into his account. And it took us 3 weeks to actually negotiate the sale, but he took it off the market. So every single other person that called up about it, it was a pretty attractive property. He just went under offer. So it took us three weeks to actually get to the point where we were satisfied to sign the contract. And then we went, into a cooling off period, which has just expired. So very, very different experience. And that's how I like to buy real estate. What is it? Done.
Guys, this is I can tell, people have got views and strong opinions on this. I'm watching on social media what they're saying. I'm sure when your podcast gets released to your listeners tomorrow, they're going to, get into a debate. And I'm really hoping that one of the things that's come out of our conversation today is that real estate people understand what it feels like emotionally to the other party. And if you're going to get an understanding of the impact that you have, it might change your approach. The second thing I'm hoping that comes out of it is to beginning to understand that every agent needs to have a process on managing the sale process if it's not an auction with multiple bidders, and probably the third thing is you can see you've got a person that's not overly happy. That person knows 100 people. Those 100 people will probably not be using that agent. Not only that, those 100 people also know 100 people. So the truth is, you can turn around and say, oh, well, it's one client, but it's not like we live in a world where we're silos. We're in fact like neurons, where we're all interconnected. And the one thing that happens to one person gets transferred to another person, gets transferred to another person. And here's the deal, guys and girls. Unfortunately, there's not one agent to have to do business with in every suburb. So the truth is that you can easily get wiped out, and we clearly know that recommendation continues to be the number one source of how someone makes a decision in selecting an agent. Yes, there's social media. Yes, there's letterbox drops. Yes, there's marketing. but nothing is more powerful than the power of recommendation from one human to another human. So, guys, thank you so much. The good side of the story is that you ended up buying a home, which you're extremely happy with. Mate, I've got to tell you, guys, if there's any jobs there they always say you'll only get rich working for a rich boss. You guys look like you're doing pretty well. We've got 2 people here, owners there. You bought real estate, mate. Life must be good. Well done. Congratulations.
Thanks, Tom.
There's another comment here.
Thomas.
If you take it off the market for 3 weeks to negotiate a sale and the buyer walks away, your vendor will probably fire you as their agent, says Veronica. Lisa Novak, on a flip side, as agents, we will guide buyers, take the advice of the agent. Margot, this was very interesting. Yeah, gang, listen, great session. Good to see you. Paul Glassett.
What's he got to say? Don't listen to this bloke.
All selling agents need to think like a buyer's agent. It serves all parties for eternity. The vendor, the buyer, the underbidders, and the future properties that fit under recruit gives the selling agent trained to speak with other owners nearby. Thank you, Paul. He's your surfing mate, isn't he?
I wouldn't call him a mate. I'd say it's a reluctant acquaintance, Tom.
Mate, that was a great surfing trip. It rained for 3-4 days. What'd you do?
Drank a lot of beer.
Drank a lot of beer. All right, let's catch up and have a drink before Christmas, guys. Thanks a lot, Alex. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for giving me a chance to air my thoughts. I'm not expecting people to agree with what I'm saying. I just want to give an insight, as it is, raw experience. People can make their own minds up. I believe I believe in real estate, and I believe in what agents do here. As you can tell by my accent, I'm English. Real estate's very different over there. There's a very dynamic industry here, sophisticated. The way that homes are presented to buyers is phenomenal. There's a lot of passion, a lot of energy goes in. And I just think there's a lot of opportunity that gets missed. So, look, I hope there's been some value from hearing my story, and I've been very grateful to be on the show.
Alex, I'll just finish off on this. On a Saturday, I could end up doing, or lately it's been 16, 17, but on average, 10 to 12 auctions. As I'm leaving and I see an underbidder, right, I'm mindful. For me, it might be my 10th auction of the day, my 100th for the quarter, my 500th for the year, but for that person, it's the first. I always go up to the underbidder if they're around, if they haven't disappeared, and I'll say to them this. I know this might sound corny, but most of the underbidders I've met that I've run into afterwards somewhere tell me it didn't work out too bad after all, because they would have not been able to buy the next home that came available, which they didn't have available at the time they were looking at it. So all I can say to you is that history shows that you'll probably find something that will be even happier than this one. I'll leave them with that comment, because I actually know, mate, I'm going to another auction. They're getting into the car and they're emotionally devastated, because just for a moment, when they were the highest bidder during the auction, they were in the living room with their family and their friends, just for a moment, and it had been taken away from them, right? And you felt that. You felt that for a full 30 minutes. You visualized the Whitlock family in the property. Life is good.
Bringing the general value of the suburb down once we moved in.
Yes. All righty.
It's all good now, Tom. It's all good. Thanks very much.
Stay strong. See you next week.
See you later.
See ya.